This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. All right, let's get it. It's the day after the Browns' first win of the season, which means it's the first Victory Monday of the season. Toast whatever it is that you toast, whether it be coffee, candy, water, seltzer, whatever it is that you toast this early in the morning, mind you, on a Monday, a work day. Toast it in the air and praise the Victory Monday, all that stuff. But let's talk about the winners and losers of this game. And I'm going to start with the losers so we can end with a better taste in our mouth, because some of the losers here, some of it ranges from you can't let one play happen. Some of it ranges from the obvious stuff, but let's talk about it. So Greg Newsome is the first loser of the week. Can't get beat by a rookie like that, even if it's one play, bro. Like, I know Brian Thomas Jr. is a good player. He's underrated. He's really strong, but bro, come on. You can't let somebody push you off like that. Greg Newsome had perfect coverage on him, and then Brian Thomas Jr. just decided that he didn't have that anymore. Can't happen. And by the way, if you've ever wanted to know how you can tell if a DB is embarrassed by their effort on a specific play, and I'll ask Tyvis about this to confirm, I have a sneaking suspicion that a way that you can indicate that is if the DB then tries really hard to get a strip. Like, they really try hard to force a fumble. Because whenever I see a DB do that, that means they got cooked crazy on the reception. But I'll ask Tyvis if that's true. He would know more about DB culture than me. But yeah, Greg Newsome, that one can't go. Can't do that. Not good. No. Amari Cooper is another loser here. Now, look, I'm going to handle this Amari Cooper first 2 weeks very diplomatically, because Amari Cooper has had two of the best years of his career in the last few years with the Cleveland Browns. While it may look visually as if Amari Cooper has lost a step, there are other things that could explain why it looks like that, other than he's just lost the ability to play football. It has been pointed out to me that Amari Cooper, he held out through minicamp. He did not play through OTAs, all of that stuff. And then in training camp, he really didn't practice that much because of injuries that he was already dealing with. So he did not get a ton of time at training camp. It could just be that all the things that we're seeing with Amari Cooper, him looking like he's missing a step, him looking like he's not there fully from a speed perspective, him looking like he can't track footballs, might just be because he's having to play himself into shape. And if that's the case, then this will be a thing for maybe another week. And then Amari Cooper go back to looking like Amari Cooper, and all things will be good. What I definitely don't think it is that Amari Cooper has quit on the Cleveland Browns or that he doesn't want to be a Cleveland Brown anymore. I think that's a very lazy solution to get to, and it's a solution that people get to that really ignores how Amari Cooper operates, or at least how we have seen Amari Cooper operate as a person. Amari Cooper is about the bag. Amari Cooper wants to get paid. And for Amari Cooper to get paid, he has to play well. I'm pretty sure Amari Cooper does not want to play the way that he's played the last few weeks. I'm pretty sure Amari Cooper would like to play better football than that, right? I think it's the case that he's just playing himself into shape. Maybe he's lost a step. It could be that too. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because of the body of work he's put together, especially in the Cleveland Browns uniform, that it's just him playing himself into shape. But that being said, how he played, not good. Even if you're playing yourself into shape, I'm going to need you to be better than this, right? Because some of this stuff was just right there in his hands and he just got to catch it. And honestly, a lot of Deshaun Watson's misses in this game, the passes he didn't make, they weren't on Deshaun. They were really right in the hands of these wide receivers. Amari Cooper is probably the most egregious one of the day here. So Amari's got to play better. We all know he's got to play better. The question is, why isn't Amari playing better? There are some people that think it's because he's cooked. There are some people that think it's because he's quit on the Browns because of the trade rumors have made him not want to play football in Cleveland. He's been emotional about this. I don't think it's a question of, hey, is he playing himself into shape or is he physically declined? I don't think it's the third part where people think that he's like quitting on the team because he got an attitude or something. I think that's kind of silly and unbecoming of Amari Cooper's established character in the NFL. The core interior offensive line, they weren't losers all game because I did think the run game deserved to be in the winners category here. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. But the core offensive line had a bit of a meltdown at the end of this game where they got a bunch of holding penalties back to back to back. Now, again, I want to look at this from a lot of different angles and not just go with the most obvious one, right? A lot of people are going to attack this from the angle of, oh, the Browns are undisciplined. They don't have discipline. That's why they held. I'm thinking about it, and the way I process it is this. The Browns aren't used to playing in southern humidity, especially Florida humidity, northern Florida humidity. And if you've never been in the South, Georgia, North Carolina, northern Florida, you don't understand how much that humidity sucks, especially when you're playing this sport. And I think it might have been the case at the end of the game that they were gassed, especially the interior offensive line, and that's why they held so much. Still can't happen. Just because I'm providing a reason does not mean I'm saying it's perfectly excusable why the thing happened, but I think that's the reason. I think they were holding because they were gassed. They were in that humidity. It kicked their ass, and they got tired at the end. They were run blocking all drive, and they made a mistake, and it kept compounding that mistake and mistake and mistake. I don't think that's going to be a normal thing for this offensive line going forward. I don't think the penalties, like I know people are going to make a big deal out of the Browns having 13 penalties this week and 11 penalties last week. I'm not really putting this week's level of sloppiness on even the same tier as last week. Last week was a different ball game of sloppy because even when you didn't get penalties, it looked like you should have got penalties. And I say another reason why, after some thought about it, I'm not really going to be that tough on the Cleveland Browns this week for the amount of penalties that they had being higher than they were against Dallas is think about how many of these penalties were illegal procedure, and think about the level of inconsistency that the referees have showed league-wide on calling that penalty. A lot of times they would call these illegal procedure penalties. I cannot tell you what they felt like was illegal procedure or an illegal shift or an illegal motion. It's not consistent. There's one play where they're saying, okay, two guys moved, and that's acceptable to call. That makes sense to me. There are other plays where the Browns just simply run an orbit motion, and they decide to call the orbit motion, which has been legal for years, a illegal shift. And they're not even explaining it. They're just calling it. So I'm going to be honest, these 13 penalties aren't the same as the 11 that they had last week because so many of them were like illegal procedure or like holding, which is more of a penalty because of how you're playing more than like how you're lined up pre-snap. So I'm not as worried about the amount of penalties from the offensive line this week as I was last week. Still concerned that all those penalties did happen, especially with who those penalties were happening with. Again, it could have just been that they were gassed at the end of the game and that led to a lot of holding calls, or that the refs decided that they want to call a ton of holding at the end of this game. I don't expect the holding calls to be replicated. My question with the NFL is, like, what is going on with the illegal procedure? Like, what do you want these teams to do? And if you got something that you don't want them to do anymore, please be more specific about it. Because every game I watch, there's just confusion about these penalties being called pre-snap, and it's just way too many of them at this point. I know the NFL always does this every year. They pick a penalty and they call it a ton during the first few weeks of the season, but they got to be a little bit more specific about this one because I don't think a lot of teams even know what they're doing wrong. Upon reflection of this, because I know I felt differently right after the game, I think this was more of like a result of picky officiating than it was truly sloppy play from the Cleveland Browns. But we'll see. We'll see. If this continues to be a problem for like 15 weeks, then obviously it was more than what I thought it was. But that's where I'm at. But let's get to the winners. I think the first winner is Deshaun Watson because he came into this game with the most to lose, right? Deshaun Watson put together another performance that was even reminiscent of what he did week 1. It would have been a horrible environment waiting for him week 3 against the New York Giants. What this game does for Deshaun Watson is give him more time to plead his case to the people of Cleveland that he is a franchise quarterback, that he is a top 5 guy, and that he is going to live up to the expectations that the Cleveland Browns had of him. It doesn't sell you definitively on that pitch, but it does give you more time to be willing to listen to that. Because if he dropped a stanker today, it would have been raps for Deshaun Watson. I think we all need to accept that was the reality coming into this game. He played a good game. He played the game he needed to play at the very least. And I think that this is a step in the right direction for Deshaun Watson. Absolutely. Like if he looks, this is what we saw Deshaun Watson looking like in 2023. This is more along the lines of like what he did at the end of Baltimore and so on and so forth. So it looks like he just had a really, really bad game for whatever reason, week 1. And now that looks like what we kind of saw from him in 2023. Still need to see it for multiple games. Still need to see it for a whole season. And I think the people of Cleveland are going to need a whole season from him before they're really sold on the case for Deshaun. So still an uphill battle for Deshaun Watson, but a step in the right direction for him. Jerry Jeudy. Very good game from Jerry Jeudy. I thought Jerry Jeudy looked like your best wide receiver in this one. Look, he looks like he's ready to go. He looks like he's going to be that number 2 receiver at the very least that the Browns wanted. He got a couple chunk plays, came in huge in that final drive that should have ended the game if the Browns don't get that slew of penalties to end this one. But still, very much like what Jerry Jeudy put on tape today. Thought he put together a great game for the Cleveland Browns. Happy for Jerry Jeudy. Third thing that I think is a winner. I think the Browns can run the ball again. I think it's true. Look, the Jacksonville Jaguars are built to stop the run defensively, and you were able to move them and get good chunks on the ground against them, right? Jerome Ford had a solid day against them. I thought that Deontay Foreman, if it weren't for all of the holding penalties that he got that weren't really essential to how he got open in these runs, if it weren't for that, I think he would have had a much, much stronger statistical day than he had. I think the Browns can run this football. And I think when Nick Chubb comes back, you're going to have a 3-headed monster, right? I think Deontay Foreman's going to be solid for you. Really well-rested, too. If you get him for a whole drive, I think that's going to be really nice. Jerome Ford looks like a really good second back, which is why I thought he'd be, right? Good pass protector, good receiver, and somebody who can break a big one off if it needs to be had. So I think this run game, I think it's there for the Cleveland Browns, and I think they should use it a lot more. And this team is always better, no matter who they play, when they play more balanced. And I'm glad that the Browns went into this game with that in mind, that they ran the ball more than people anticipated that they would run it, and that they didn't just fall into the trope of, oh, you throw against Jacksonville. No, you go balance against whoever you play against, and the Browns had a pretty balanced day when it comes to running their run-pass splits. They stayed under 35 pass attempts. They're always a better offense when they stay under 35 pass attempts. Alex Wright, thought he had a great game, right? Made the big play of the day through a double team. If Alex Wright can become a chess piece that the Browns can use throughout the season, then the Browns defense really has a lot that they're going to be able to cook up towards the end of it. So super happy there. And my last winner of the day is going to be a shock to some of my longtime viewers. Got to give the nod to special teams. They did the damn thing today. I thought Dustin Hopkins, outside of that one penalty, and look, I'm not going to blame Dustin Hopkins for that one penalty because I think that has 100% to do, in my opinion, of NFL officiating jank. And what I mean by that is the NFL will have rules that they don't enforce all the time, and they'll tell you they're not going to enforce it, and then all of a sudden, for no reason, they'll enforce it. I feel like that was the result of one of those NFL jank penalty call, whatever it was, for Dustin Hopkins. I feel like it was honestly bullshit that they even called it, because what advantage did the Browns gain from having Dustin Hopkins run past the 50-yard line for like 5 seconds? I don't get it. But Other than that, I thought special teams, you got to tip the cap to him. Dustin Hopkins, 3 for 3. Corey Bojorquez, really good punting the football. And look, during this early part of the season, when you're still going to want to get pieces together for the offense, you're still waiting to get healthy with David Njoku and Nick Chubb coming back and your offensive linemen coming back, you're going to need special teams to hold it down. Not only to get field goals, but also to punt to make sure that you put the defense in a position to be successful. So all of that makes me feel really good about where the Browns are, their ability to capitalize on things, and their ability to get better going forward. So those are my winners and losers. Let me know your winners and losers down in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.